I've lived in this building for over 5 years. A squat, red brick relic from the 60s that squats like a drunk at the edge of our sleepy cul-de-sac. It's the kind of place where hall lights hum and flicker with neglect, and where you learn the names of your neighbors mostly by the smell of their cooking drifting under your door. Our entrance isn't much, just a chipped green door with a faded brass buzzer panel to the right, encased in a cracked plexiglass cover. There's a little overhang above it that always seems to collect dead leaves and cigarette butts. No matter the season, that spot always smells faintly of mildew and old, wet carpet. But something changed a few weeks ago. It started with the buzzer. Late one night, probably around 1:30 a.m., I heard it go off. Long, shrill, and desperate. It buzzed like someone had leaned on it with their full weight. I jolted awake and sat there, heart kicking in my chest, listening. Then it stopped. Just one long buzz. Nothing else. I live on the 3rd floor, and my unit overlooks the entrance. I crept over to the window and peered out through the blinds. The porch light above the door cast a weak yellow cone across the concrete stoop. Empty. No one there. The next morning, I asked around. Mrs. Petrov in 2A said she'd heard it too but hadn't gone to check. Andrew from 1C didn't hear a thing. He sleeps with noise-canceling headphones. Everyone else either hadn't noticed or didn't care. I figured maybe it was a prank. Some drunk kid messing around. These things happen. But then it happened again. And again. Always the same time. Always just one buzz. And never anyone at the door. The 4th time it happened, I stayed up. Sat on the couch with all the lights off, watching the entrance from my window. I had a direct line of sight to the buzzer panel, the stoop, even the sidewalk beyond it. At exactly 1:31 a.m., the buzzer screamed. My stomach clenched. I leapt to the window, heart pounding, trying to catch them in the act. But no one was there. Not on the stoop, not on the sidewalk, not in the street. Just that same sickly yellow porch light illuminating the damp concrete, and the ugly green door. I pressed my face closer to the glass. Nothing. That's when I noticed something strange. The buzzer panel was lit up. It shouldn't have been. Those little green lights that indicate someone's pressing a button, they're only supposed to flash briefly, then go dark. But the light next to my apartment number was still glowing. As if someone was holding the button down. I felt my throat go dry. I picked up my phone, ready to call the police, or at least the landlord. But before I could dial, the light blinked off. Just like that. As if someone let go. And then I saw movement. Not on the stoop. Inside. Inside the building. A shadow passed behind the frosted glass of the entryway. Not a silhouette, just a vague, dark blur, sliding across the glass too slowly to be anything casual. It didn't walk. It shifted, like a smudge across a mirror. And then it was gone. No footsteps on the stairs. No creaking. Just silence. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I stood in front of the entrance, coffee in hand, just staring at the buzzer panel. No signs of tampering. The plexiglass cover was still cracked the same way it had always been, the buttons worn from years of oily fingers. But now, it felt different. Like the thing was watching me. I tried laughing it off with the guy from 2D when I ran into him near the mailboxes. I joked about haunted buzzers and midnight ghosts. He smiled politely, but there was something tight in his eyes. Before walking off, he paused and said, "Yeah. You know, that thing used to buzz every night back in '09 too. Right before that guy in 3B went missing." I just blinked at him. "What guy?" I asked. But he was already halfway down the hall. I googled later that night. Nothing. No missing persons, no news reports. But some buildings, especially old ones, carry their stories like secrets. Only the walls know. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until the next night. This time, I stayed in bed. I couldn't do another stakeout at the window. I was too tired, too strung out. But sure enough, right at 1:31 a.m., the buzzer blared again. This time, I didn't move. I just listened. It went quiet after a few seconds, just like before. But then I heard a soft sound. Something I couldn't place at first. It was faint, like a whisper, but rhythmic. I got up, walked slowly to my door, and put my ear to it. Scratch. 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 My breath caught. Something, or someone, was dragging their nails slowly across my door. From the top, all the way down to the bottom. A long, deliberate stroke. And then again. I didn't open it. I didn't even look through the peephole. I just backed away and stood frozen in the center of my apartment, listening. After the third scratch, it stopped. I didn't sleep at all that night either. The next morning, I found the mark. I didn't expect to see anything, honestly. I figured whatever had scratched my door, if anything had scratched it, wouldn't have left proof. That's how these things usually go, right? Just enough to mess with your head but not enough to convince anyone else. But there it was. A single, greasy smear, running down the center of my door. From the top edge all the way to the floor, as though someone had dragged their hand, no, their palm, slowly downward. 5 faint streaks trailed beneath it, like fingers, only slightly apart. The smudge wasn't made of dirt or oil. It had a dark, dull sheen, like old blood that had dried and then gotten wet again. I touched it. Immediately regretted it. It was sticky. Not fresh, but tacky, like it had been there a while, slowly drying. My fingertips tingled afterward. I scrubbed my hand under hot water and dish soap until my skin turned red. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had stuck. Not on my skin, on me. Inside. I wanted to tell someone. But what would I say? Hey, I think there's a ghost fingering my door every night? I'd get laughter at best, a wellness check at worst. So I did the one thing that made sense at the time. I bought a cheap little security camera from the electronics store down the street. Installed it right above my door, angled toward the hallway. It had night vision, motion detection, and a little SD card to record anything unusual. I set it up that night and went to bed with a strange feeling, a tightness in my chest, like I was both excited and terrified to see what it might catch. I didn't sleep, of course. And at 1:31 a.m., the buzzer screamed again. This time, I stayed in bed. I didn't move. I just lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling in the dark. No scratches this time. Just silence. I didn't even wait for coffee the next morning. I grabbed the SD card, plugged it into my laptop, and scrubbed through the footage, fast-forwarding through hours of static hallway and flickering overhead lights. Then, right at 1:31 a.m., the camera picked up motion. The hallway lights buzzed, flared, then dimmed slightly. Not enough to notice in person, maybe, but the camera caught the pulse. And then, something moved into frame. At first, I thought the lens was smudged. The figure that appeared didn't have a clear outline. It was like smoke, almost. Not see-through, exactly. Just undefined. Like the camera couldn't focus on it properly. But it had shape. Height. Movement. It didn't walk. It sort of floated forward, slow and heavy, like it was dragging invisible chains. There was a rhythm to it, a weight. A presence. It stopped directly in front of my door. For a moment, it just stood there. Then, it raised an arm, long, narrow, jointed wrong somehow, and pressed something against the door. A smear. Exactly where I found it. I paused the video. Zoomed in. The fingers were too long. Too thin. They looked brittle, almost insect-like, but moved with liquid grace. I felt sick just looking at them. The worst part? There were 6. 6 fingers. It held the hand there for a long time. Then it slowly, so agonizingly slowly, dragged it down the door until it vanished out of frame. I sat there for a long time, staring at the paused video. My heart wouldn't slow down. I had evidence now, actual, recorded proof that something unnatural was happening. But all it made me feel was worse. Because now I had to ask the question that had been gnawing at me since the first night this started. Why my door? The day dragged. I couldn't focus at work. I kept replaying the footage in my mind, those 6 fingers smearing down my door like it was marking me, claiming me, and the way it just stood there, as if it was listening to something inside. That night, I stayed late in the lobby. I needed answers. Real ones. So I knocked on 2D's door, the guy who mentioned the disappearance in 3B. When he opened it, he looked surprised. Maybe a little annoyed. I didn't waste time. Back in '09, I said. You said someone from 3B went missing? What happened? He hesitated, eyes flicking down the hallway, then motioned for me to come in. His place smelled like mint tea and dust. He sat on the edge of the armrest while I stood, awkwardly shifting on my feet. It was a guy named Thomas. Quiet, kept to himself. No one really knew him. Then one day he just vanished. Left everything behind, wallet, keys, even his shoes. Cops came, asked questions, never found a thing. I felt cold. And the buzzer? Same as now. Every night, like clockwork. Always around 1:30. Started about a week before he disappeared. Some tenants said they heard scratching at their doors. Then the buzzer stopped. That's when we realized he was gone. Was it his door? I asked. Where the thing was scratching? He nodded slowly. Yeah. 3B. My apartment. I felt the blood drain from my face. But that was over 15 years ago. He added. No weird stuff since then. Not until now. I barely made it back upstairs before I threw up in the sink. I didn't sleep that night either. I couldn't. Because I live in 3B. I started checking the lock on my door every hour. At first it was just a quick turn of the deadbolt before bed, but now I was testing it obsessively. Making sure it clicked, tugging the handle, sometimes pushing against the door with my full weight. I even stacked a chair under the doorknob like some movie cliché, knowing full well it wouldn't stop whatever that thing was if it decided to come in. Still, I had to do something. The buzzer didn't go off that night. That almost made it worse. Because at 1:31 a.m., I woke up anyway. Not to a sound, but to a feeling. Like I was being watched. The air was thick and hot. Stale. My mouth was dry, my chest tight. I reached for my phone, 1:31 exactly. I listened. Silence. And then something new. Click. The sound of my deadbolt sliding. I froze. It came again, softer this time, like the bolt was struggling, being finessed. My body wouldn't move. I just lay there in the dark, holding my breath. Click. Clack. CHK. The bolt wasn't turning. Not fully. It kept catching, jerking back, as if someone, or something, was trying to unlock it, but didn't quite understand how. Finally, I bolted upright, grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a heavy lamp, and crept to the door. I stood there, ear pressed to the wood, heart crashing against my ribs. Silence. No movement. I slowly reached out and twisted the lock again, just to be sure. It was still in place. Still locked. But when I looked down, the chair I had wedged under the doorknob, it was in the middle of the hallway. On the other side of the door. After the chair incident, I stopped pretending I could handle this on my own. I took the next day off work. Called in sick, no explanation, just mumbled something about food poisoning and hung up. I needed time to think. To plan. To escape, maybe? I kept going back to the camera footage, hoping to catch something, anything, that would help. But the camera hadn't picked up anything new. In fact, the last recording it made was the one with the 6-fingered smear. After that, the SD card was blank. Not erased. Just blank. Like nothing had passed in front of it. No motion. No light. Just 4 solid hours of black silence every night from 1:30 a.m. to 5:30. I tested it. Walked in front of the camera myself. It recorded fine. But at night? Nothing. Like it was afraid too. That night, I didn't try to sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with all the lights on, a knife in my hand I had no idea how to use. The clock ticked closer to 1:31. When the buzzer didn't ring again, I should have felt relief. But instead I heard something worse. A whisper. So soft I couldn't understand the words, but close, too close. Like it was coming from inside the walls. I turned off the fan. Held my breath. The whispering continued. Not one voice. Two. One was low and guttural, like someone gargling glass. The other was almost childlike, high-pitched and fast, like a skipping record. They were speaking to each other. Conversing. Arguing. And then, clear as day, both stopped. And a single word, perfectly audible, spilled from the silence and slithered across my floor. Open. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking to the door. But somehow, I was there, knife dangling uselessly in one hand, my other hand already on the lock, like I'd been waiting for that word all along. Open. It echoed in my mind like a suggestion too deep to resist. I felt like a puppet in my own skin. I twisted the lock. The bolt slid back with a soft, willing click. I blinked. My mind screamed at me to stop, but my body kept moving. I turned the knob and eased the door open, just a crack. Nothing. Just a dark hallway, barely lit by the emergency exit light at the end. I opened it wider. Still nothing. But the air, it felt wrong. Too cold. Heavy. Like the hallway had been vacuum sealed and only just now cracked open to let something in. Or out. I stepped back, heart thundering. I don't know why I opened it all the way. Maybe I was hoping to end the suspense. Maybe I thought if I invited whatever it was in, it would just reveal itself and be done. But the hallway stayed empty. I backed away slowly, knife trembling in my hand. Closed the door. Locked it. This time, I pushed the fridge in front of it. Nothing supernatural about a 200-pound appliance. I returned to my room and sat on the bed in a daze. Then I noticed the window. It was open. Wide open. And on the inside of the glass, in that same sticky, streaked substance I found on the door, was a single word smeared by 6 long, dragging fingers. Thank you? It's been 3 nights since then. No buzzers. No scratches. No whispers. The hallway is quiet. My door stays shut. The fridge is still in place, though I've stopped checking the lock every 10 minutes. Whatever it was, it's gone. Or maybe it got what it came for. I don't know which is worse. I should feel relieved, right? But the thing is, something changed. Not in the building. In me. The night after the window message, I slept. Really slept, for the first time in weeks. When I woke up, everything was so still it felt like the world had paused. And there was this feeling in my chest, like I'd been hollowed out, and something else had taken root inside. I go through the motions. Shower. Work. Eat. Smile when people talk to me. But there's this background hum under everything now. A constant awareness. Like someone watching from behind a two-way mirror. I feel it strongest at night, when the lights are off and the air settles. That presence. I haven't looked at the footage again. Haven't touched the camera. Part of me wonders if it's still blank from 1:30 to 5:30 every morning. Or worse, if it's recording again. Recording something else now. Last night, I stood at my window around 1:31 a.m. and looked down at the entrance. The porch light was out. But the buzzer? It lit up. Not for me this time. For 2A. I think it's starting again.